Yeah, I mean, as the Kurdish refugee crisis, as people came back, it was springtime, and it's all very nice and green, and great fields of wheat and barley. And what happened, the international agencies, I think largely the United States government through its DART teams, DART is Disaster Assistance Response Teams, they made efforts to get the food harvested and to refurbish and get the grain silos back into working order. So that was important because where were people going to get food from? It had to come pretty much locally. Um, Everything pretty much is grown in Kurdistan, um, and it is largely agricultural. I mean, this is long before oil. It was largely an agricultural community. And Kurdistan, the greater Kurdistan area is the breadbasket of this part of the world. It produces everything. I mean, because there's water, good land, weather's good. So year round, it produces seasonal fruits and vegetables, your main grains, lentils, and of course you have all your animal products, meat and milk products. So an effort was made to pay attention. It was also a source of income for a lot of people. One of the issues was that traditionally the government, I mean, it's the government of Iraq, bought the grain. They established a price and bought the grain. And of course, this didn't happen under those circumstances. So that had to be worked out. Also, I mean, on the food situation, I mean, there was attention paid to it. Some NGOs were involved, but when you get to the grain, this is a big thing that had to be handled by a larger agency. Um, the other thing is the fuel situation. All the fuel came from outside the region. So with winter coming, especially that first winter, kerosene for heating was extremely important. Most people, you don't have centralized heating. You have kerosene heaters, and people are pretty much geared to filling your kerosene heater and moving it around to wherever you happen to be sitting. And there's different kinds of kerosene heaters. So, but you need kerosene. So that had to be arranged through various ways, mostly from southern Iraq, from the government side of Iraq. So efforts were made through local people. It is a talent in this part of the world, what I call creative importing or creative exporting, which is smuggling, how to get things that are needed to where they're needed, from where they are to where they're needed. And great efforts were made, and much of it was successful. And of course, fuel in Iraq was extremely cheap compared to perhaps any other place in the world. But you had to have access to it. Um, just a quick little anecdote. In January 96, the Iraqi dinar, there are 1,000 fils in a Iraqi dinar. Benzene, petrol, gasoline was selling, I remember, at 200 fils per liter. That means for 1 dinar, you could get 5 liters, more than a gallon. At that time, the exchange rate, because of the situation, had deteriorated to 3,000 dinars per dollar, which meant that for $1, you could purchase 15,000 liters of gasoline. But you had to, so in the Kurdistan region, it had to be smuggled from the south. We didn't pay that cheap, but it was, everybody made money, obviously, but that was the government subsidized rate, let's say in Mosul. While in Dahuk, it might have been 5 times that much, which is still pretty cheap, I mean, relative to the rest of the world. And it's one reason why Turkish truck drivers love to come to northern Iraq, because they would bring goods in and take fuel out. And of course, they had to go through a lot. Maybe they would have to wait 5 days to get into the country, but if they made one trip a month, they could make a lot of money. So they would fabricate these tanks all over their truck, underneath, just so they could carry fuel out. And between the hook and the border, of course, these tanks would leak, and the roads would be covered with diesel, and they were extremely treacherous, especially when they were wet. But eventually, of course, all this was smuggled out of the country. But a number of people made money on it, and they kept things going.